Hi everybody, Rad Mom here. Welcome back to the garden on this lovely summer evening. Where tonight we are going to be tackling the second half of Jessie Gender's amazing two-parter. As I said last time, the second half is really where all the money is, where all the good stuff really lurks. So thank you for joining me. Like the video if you enjoy my content, and subscribe to the channel so that we can all work together to drag feminism back into the real world, because unfortunately not everyone lives there. You know, as I said last time, I am just an amateur. Psychology is just a hobby of mine, really. And people like Jessie offer us a really interesting opportunity in that he seems to fail pretty much entirely to separate the internal world from the external world in his conception of how things work. Which makes his worldview a pretty raw look inside his psyche, because he doesn't differentiate between the two. And he's right about so much when it comes to his analysis of toxic masculinity. You know, unfortunately that foundational misunderstanding leads him to some pretty strange conclusions, as we shall see.
And that was just because they saw a shift in me being a man to me being a woman. There was no physical change. I didn't look any different. I didn't even change the clothing that I wore, the same uniform every single day. And yet that subtle shift managed to change how they viewed me and treated me, even while being affirming of me as a woman. But this moved beyond this because I noticed it in many other places too. The same concepts and ideas that I've been told as a man were intelligent were less valued than before.
So you were questioned more after you came out to your colleagues, and you assumed it was because they saw you as a woman now. I submit that it may have been because they saw you as a nutcase.
If fitting like the really in vogue version of femininity at the time, I felt totally alienated from myself. It didn't, I mean, yes, I was transitioning and, you know, changing my name and all that, but beyond that, I didn't feel like I had really come to understand myself better, because yeah, it was all about being as far away from like the opposite gender as possible.
So acting out femininity turns out to be just as alienating as trying to act out masculinity, almost as if these are stereotypes that no one really sticks to. I thought you guys knew this. Didn't we just discuss this in part 1?
And that anxiety that I talked about earlier, it's something that has just grown a little bit since coming out. I think it's part of the reason why I write such long videos on this channel. I picked up the habit because anytime I left a gap or didn't mention a related topic within a video, people would assume hostile intent for me or that I was ignorant. I would get so many comments on videos saying, oh, you must hate this person or hate this group of people because I didn't mention them. And it's made me anxious and over-explain lest I be seen as naive or evil.
Yeah, that's fun. How he acknowledges anxiety as a driving force behind, you know, the content that he creates. And just that, I think this is a pretty core confession here. And he describes how he feels the need to go over and over and over every little detail lest anyone misunderstand him. And guess what? It happens anyway. Because of course it does. Such is life, my friend, because the external world can't read your mind.
Well, I personally have anger, trauma, and pain from all of this, and I'm sure many others do too. What really tears me apart is how sad all this makes me feel.
Oh my God, somebody give him an Oscar. That's amazing. Oh my God. What really tears you apart is how sad all this makes you. Really? You made a 4-hour fucking video trying to control the narrative around all this because you're sad? I'm not saying you're not sad, but it's not the motivation I'm getting here.
Fascist groups, authoritarian groups, because ultimately it's still reinforcing the same patriarchal view of womanhood as weak and needing protection from men.
Had a bit of an idea about some of the things that you can do, and men, for once, I'm talking to you. I'm talking about you dads who maybe carry, I think that's what you say. I'm so down with the American lingo. Maybe you carry, maybe you don't. Maybe you consider yourself a protector of women. Maybe you're that sort of man. Maybe you have a daughter or a mother or a wife. Maybe you have a sister. Maybe you just have some friends. Maybe you just think women are human and you don't need any absolute connection with them to feel compelled to protect us. I think you should start using women's toilets, men.
And so now, of course, we're at the section wherein he talks about how the TERFs are evil and bad. Because white supremacy. Right. You know, and uses this same tired clip of Kelly J. Keane talking about how men need to carry their guns into the ladies' room. Which, you know, I actually went and did my due diligence on this a while back. And watched, you know, it in context, in the full context of the episode. And she's being facetious. Wouldn't you know it? Shocking. Right? She's joking, dude. And anybody who watches her show or is well acquainted with her at all knows that she does that shit all the time. She's very sarcastic. And kind of mean, you know? Like, I don't understand. It's awfully convenient when you choose to take people seriously, when you choose to take people at their word. Isn't it?
Because for trans women, femininity was not a weakness, but a chosen path. Femininity to many trans women was not a burden or viewed as something weak, but used to escape the path that we were told to walk, the one that we were told we could win the game by walking. Femininity in this way becomes a strength.
Femininity is a strength all of a sudden? I thought you said it didn't exist. I thought you said that there was no such thing as objective femininity or masculinity.
I don't think there is like an objective masculinity that is meaningfully different from like an objective feminine. I think they're basically the same thing.
Yeah. I don't disagree. I've been using the term because that's the term that I think will be helpful for people watching the video.
So what are you talking about? What, you know, I've actually tried to define femininity, and it's a lot more difficult than you might think, assuming that you're not content with things like long hair and nails and makeup, which actually, you know, it seems like you're pretty attached to those things, literally. And, you know, just the general discussion he has with Lily, what's his face? Alexander, about who has also had a lot of work done, and I almost didn't recognize him, about just they're complaining about femininity and how constricting it is and what a burden it is. And it's like, yes, no fucking shit. Why exactly did you want to opt into this? Maybe it was because you had no idea what the fuck you were talking about. And there it is, folks. Good night, everybody.
How by identifying or trying to empathize with a cisgender male experience to try to understand what many cis men go through, I, as a trans woman, am often labeled as male identified, as socialized male, as having had some inherent more masculine background or experience.
You described it for us. You were an Eagle Scout. Case closed. No girl has ever had that experience that I know of. I know that the Boy Scouts recently began accepting girls, but as far as I know, none of them have made it to Eagle Scout. That's a boy thing. You said it yourself. It's being given the award for being the best boy.
I got to be an Eagle Scout. I literally won the award for being the best boy.
That one thing in itself is an especially masculine experience. You described it for us in part 1, man. What are you doing? Like, you're talking out both sides of your mouth as if you don't think people are going to notice.
You can even see this in recent tweets by badly bearded man Matt Walsh.
Jealous much? Well, you know, you don't need a beard to do this. Now listen, I'm not an expert or anything. Say what you will about Matt Walsh. I feel like the man grows a pretty nice beard. Am I off base here? Am I crazy? Am I the only one who thinks his beard is like possibly the best thing about him? Again, what he thinks is a throwaway line that I think says a lot. And we're literally 10 seconds before this bit.
And in a way, men like Matt Walsh are correct, but not in the way that he thinks. Trans people represent a fall of manhood in our society because we show how bullshit this society's version of manhood is. That there are ways beyond it, new ways to be, new versions of even manhood that can exist.
By becoming a woman? What are you talking about? How are you talking? How in the world do people like you show different kinds of manhood? I thought you were a woman, Jessie. Which, would be kind of the whole bowing out of attempting to come up with your own form of masculinity, wouldn't it? Like entirely, like going way far out of your way to not have to be to not have to worry about that. No, you don't get to do that. You don't get to run full tilt away from something and then try and take credit for it. Fuck that. No, because I'm going to call you out on it. That's bullshit. But it's not as good as this next part. Oh my god.
On top of that, we can find a sense of identity and selfhood in transness and womanhood. Not in being trans, but a sense of belonging, of community within the queer and trans and woman communities, because they've been able to build their own communities and sense of self within them. Something that white men are often denied is...
I'm sorry. White men are often denied the opportunity to build community? You mean aside from colonialism, I assume? Fucking when? Fucking where? White men literally, are the originators of the concept of the boys club. What the fuck are you talking about? You cannot just make shit up. Obviously, sticking to reality is not really your strong suit because you cannot differentiate it between it and your imagination.
I'd argue that cis white men who are angry, upset, frustrated, and feeling like they're not man enough are just dealing with as much gender dysphoria as trans women are.
Men have gender dysphoria. It's almost as if that kind of shit is normal. Like I've been saying, it's almost as if we all struggle with fitting into these stereotypes. You're so close, Jessie. You're so close. Ooh. You're so close, honey.
Yeah, they're trying to live up to a version of maleness that they can't attain, and that they've never been told that it's okay if they don't. Because it is okay if they don't. In fact, it's more than okay. It's a beautiful thing if they don't.
Apparently, it is okay if you don't live up to masculine ideals. It just means that you might be a woman, gentlemen.
If they get to show the beauty and unending majesty and diversity of not just humanity, but what men can be.
Now, you're going to encourage other men to do the work that you yourself are too fucking cowardly to do and will rather hide behind woman face. God.
And so it makes them angry and frustrated and lash out in the only way they're told they're allowed to, with anger and violence and control. And I see myself in that.
No shit, Sherlock. You are describing yourself. And not even in the way of the, failure to separate the internal and the external. I mean, you are literally just describing yourself. And pretending that you don't know. I don't know. Well, that's gonna fall off in about 5 minutes. Can you almost see my face now? I don't know, maybe. Anyway. Where were we?
Not seeing a way out of the system, not being given representation of who they can be, because we don't allow men a chance to see anything different. They can only work to feed the system, and we throw their bodies and lives upon that fire endlessly.
Oh, do white men feel trapped in a system created by and for them? Well, maybe y'all should deal with that. Literally laying out a case for other men to do the work for you. It's amazing. It's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing. I will give you that. It's quite something. And the performance is just priceless, isn't it? Bravo. Bravo.
I used to identify with that struggle so much. That's why I identified with characters like the Joker and Rorschach in my youth. And how when I started transitioning, I began to identify with characters like Jason Todd from the Batman comics or Vegeta in Dragon Ball early in my transition. Men who were also angry at the world and frustrated and wanted to lash out, but started to reform, started to feel like maybe they could rehabilitate themselves, build their masculinity in a healthy way. But even those characters are stuck in an endless stasis of telling the same story over and over again for them.
Stuck repeating the same story over and over again. Does that sound familiar? How many hours have we been here now? It's like, I swear, every single video is about you. And the number of personal anecdotes, like, why do I know so much about this guy and his childhood and stuff? Like, why do I know all this shit? I swear, I didn't even put this much detail in my video about myself. It kind of blows my mind. Like, the personal confessional, style of it is, he does admit self-serving, and thank goodness he does admit it, because, man, I could just harp on just that one thing all night. Oh, because it grates me. It grates on me, I think. It rubs me the wrong way. It ruffles my feathers, something terrible. The way this is all just so self-serving. It's really gross.
But then, when I transitioned, like fully, and had been out for several years and now almost a decade, I began to change who I identify with. I faced TERFs and a society that would never allow me to be seen as a woman simply by the fact that I am trans. Have them saying that, this isn't for you. You have to go back. You have to go back to being a man. And I was like, I can be that. That's not who I was. But I can see this thing that I can be, and it makes me happy, and it is me. But you won't let me have it. Why? Who does that serve? It's not me.
Not everything is about you. You're not entitled to everything you want just because you want it, just because it makes you happy. No. You can't have womanhood, because if you can have it, then the fact that, of my material experience is erased. Okay? We have seen this enacted in law and in social situations over and over and over at this point. 5 years ago, people would have called me paranoid for saying so. But, congrats to y'all on the amazing success that you've had in so little time. On changing all that, because you've demonstrated everything that we were afraid of so very well. So thanks, I guess.
And it's why I realize this whole system is just shit, because it doesn't serve anyone but those at the top. And it's why many trans women like myself and many non-binary people and trans people generally say, fuck this system.
I can't have what I want, so fuck the system. And the truth comes out. Right, everybody? Oh my God. I can't have what I want, so fuck it all. Like, goddamn. Should we listen to that again?
And it's why many trans women like myself and many non-binary people and trans people generally say, fuck this system. That we need to take it down. Because we realize how bullshit it all is. We've seen it from the inside.
Yes. That's why you say fuck the system, because you're so enlightened. It's not the reason you just gave us, which is that it won't give you what you want.
But cis men are never given that chance to see outside the boxes. They're stuck in an endless loop, trying to recreate the same version of masculinity, trying to attain that final power-up that lets them be the winner, fighting in an endless competition.
Cis men are stuck in competition with one another, but not you. Not the enlightened trans woman. Oh, no. Because you've just created another competition. outside of the masculine competition, and you automatically win. Bravo! Very nice.
I'm a trans woman. It's how I've seen myself in the society that I live within, but as I've grown older, I found that I care less about that definition.
Bullshit. Bullshit. I feel like you think you should care less. And yeah, generally speaking, as one grows older, one's locus of control tends to shift from external to more internal as you start to get a better feeling that you know what the fuck you're doing in life. But yeah, I'm not convinced that you're less worried about showing everybody what a trans woman you are. That's been this entire fucking video and the last one. So far we're at, 3.5 hours of content just about that. And that's just the recent stuff. So yeah, not buying it.
At the end of the day, I'm just me. I'm fighting to forget the role that I was told to play, and I'm fighting to remember that I am valuable, strong, and intelligent. And it's harder to remember on some days. But I am much happier. I'm expressing myself every day in a way that fills me with joy.
Through acting. Like, this is acting. This is plainly acting. And like, not in a way of like reading a script is acting. Like the facial expressions are practiced. Is it just me? Like, he's rehearsed this in front of a mirror.
I have a more fulfilling favorite role because I cast myself in that part. I'm working to destroy the play that forgot to write me a part to begin with, and just decided to cast me as one of the background players.
Wow. Working to to destroy the play that cast me as a background character. Damn. I feel like everyone is supposed to be their own main character, honey. That's up to you to find your, sense of importance within yourself. And I understand how that's difficult when there is no within and without. When you're just this completely permeable membrane, that you have no defense against anything, and you're just raw nerve walking around. And I understand that must be very discombobulating for you, but yeah, you don't get to just burn it all down because you're unhappy. The rest of us all live here too. And that goes right into this, which is not next to it though, because that would be too convenient and make too damn much sense.
And for myself, I see myself not run away from elements of who I am that I felt I needed to reject to be seen as a woman, but instead accepting parts of myself that others may see in this binary distinction of masculinity, but I don't really conceptualize that way.
So all of a sudden, he's not concerned about whether certain aspects of his personality are masculine or feminine or not. I'm not sure what sort of a revelation he has had to change this lifelong preoccupation that he has described for us in this very video series. But then what are you doing? Why do you need to be a woman at all? You've essentially talked yourself out of it, as far as I can tell. Logically speaking. I'm really waiting for the other shoe to drop here. What the fuck are you doing, man?
I also struggle even with the fact that even though I've written and tried to articulate in this video, there will be those who will watch this and not have any empathy for me.
You're worried that people are going to watch it and disagree with you, which is exactly what I am doing. It's not because I don't have empathy. Actually, I'm pretty sure it's because I do. Also, I have a fairly large backlog of experience that informs my observations here, and yeah, you're still not a woman. And so I wonder if you would, hypothetically speaking, take your own advice here.
about how when people are called out and recognize the behavior that is being discussed in them, behavior that they may at times express, instead of hearing that criticism, they instead react in anger at those talking about it, especially when they talk about specific people. Even when those calling them out are not doing so in vitriol or anger, but in a hope that those they talk about, or those who perhaps display this same behavior elsewhere, can do better.
Being held accountable means someone trusts us enough to grow, or whatever it was that he just said. Yeah, again, I ask if you would have that same humility and that same level of understanding with me pointing out that you're just not a woman. You're just not. You're just not. And, the gentleman doth protest too much. By like 3 hours, by my estimation, but hey, I am a little biased, okay?
And why would anyone waste my time making videos and doing work, hoping people will do better, if I didn't earnestly believe they could?
That's a really good question. I wonder if you will have that same humility in the face of something like this, should you ever happen upon it. I'm not going to flatter myself that he is actually going to see any of this. But if you do, I wonder if you will apply the same logic here. I'm not going to say I haven't been mean, because some of the shit that comes out of your mouth is just so aggravatingly stupid. But it wouldn't be so aggravating if I didn't think you were a smart guy. If I didn't care, I wouldn't care. Right?
I'm sure one of the main criticisms on this video will be about that tweet, that I was drama baiting.
Which is hilarious, because I have no idea what the fuck he's talking about.
Heard and opens themselves up to vulnerability, then I will have considered the entire amount of work that I spent on this video worthwhile. So because my tweet had then been taken into this us versus them framing, was when people started to attack me, call me sick, slurs used against me, people saying I didn't care about transgenocide despite having made several videos on this channel about transgenocide and tweeted about it numerous times.
Okay, see, that would be something that's demonstrably false. If people say things about you that are just not true, you can pretty much disregard their opinion of you. And this is really the thing that brought me to my conclusion about his failure to separate the internal from the external. Because to my mind, if there's some, even hordes of people on Twitter saying something about me that is easily demonstrably untrue, I ignore them. I've been accused of hating trans people many times. That's not true, so I tend to ignore it. I've been accused of hating men many times, which is also not true, so I have a tendency to ignore that. Things that are just, shit people made up, you can just write that off, Jessie. You don't have to address that. And you certainly don't have to feel, attacked by it, because it's bullshit. They're firing blanks, my friend.
Some that were just critical and actually kind. But how is anyone supposed to emotionally handle all of that at once?
You're not. You're not. There's a large portion of that that's bullshit that you're supposed to just write off. Okay? Because they're wrong. And you don't need to bother arguing with people who make bullshit assumptions about you over the internet. That's a waste of your time and your energy, and you give yourself unnecessary stress in doing so. And I thought every adult knew this in the internet age. I guess it's probably goes a long way to explain a lot of your stress level. And the entire final section is a non sequitur attempting to control the narrative again. About what comes next? I don't know. That's everything in part 2 that I felt was really, interesting or important to cover. And I think that last example really is just the linchpin, just the final nail in the coffin of my argument here. Yeah, because people being mean to you on Twitter is not a motivation to make a 4-hour video rationalizing your identity for the world. You don't think that's the way most people would respond to that? The gentleman doth protest too much. And that is my case. Mwah. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for sticking with me through all of the nonsense. And I had some people, I guess, suggested my first video based on the fact that it's about Jessie Gender, and they were like, how did I end up on TERF YouTube? And it's just like I feel pretty bad for the guy. I am angry that he is so close to being right. That's what upsets me so much about this one. Really. Because he's so smart. And it just reminds me of one of my favorite bumper stickers. Intelligence is like an all-terrain vehicle. It does not mean that you won't get stuck. It just means you get stuck in more inaccessible places. Isn't that right, Jessie? Boy, have you painted yourself into a fun little corner. And, you know, God. It reminds me of some of the mind games I used to play with myself back in the day. And it really, you know, maybe that's what it is. Maybe it isn't that he reminds me of my brother-in-law. Maybe it's that he reminds me a little too much of myself. Many, many moons ago. Because if all of this had been anywhere near as socially supported 15 years ago, who the fuck knows where I would be now? Probably somewhere decently similar. And that does haunt me a little bit. But, you know, it fills me with empathy. It fills me with sympathy and pity. And it makes me want to reach out and slap them, yes, but to slap sense into them. After having fought my way out of the gender woods by myself, the urge occurs to reach back and lend a helping hand to those that are still clearly mired in the weeds of identity confusion. And, you know, this one just keeps digging in his heels. It's sad, and it's aggravating because he's encouraging a lot of other people. How many views does this damn thing have anyway? 71,000 views in a week. And that's why we have to address it. That's why I've been doing all of this. I would love to know how many people actually watched it all the way through. I did not watch it all the way through because, as I said, the entire last section is a non sequitur. It's not related to the topic at hand, like not even loosely related to the topic at hand. So I skipped that part. You're welcome. But, you know, there were some real gems that I found on second listen through. Like, this page ended up so full, I had to stop. You know, I ran out of room for my notes on that page. But again, I am not a psychologist. This is just my way of trying to make this fun. Because this guy has 227,000 followers. He is a very prominent personality in this community. And he talks a lot of fucking nonsense in a lot of fucking circles. And I don't know. I feel like somebody ought to be calling him out on it. So thank you so much for your support in my doing so. So far, my brain has survived. Thank you so much for joining me out here in the garden on this lovely summer evening. And like the video if you enjoyed, and subscribe to the channel so we can all work together to drag feminism back into the real world. I have been Rad Mom, and I will see y'all tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. for the live stream and discussion. Till then, have a good one. See you later. Bye. How in the world can you
Hey, Mom.
What?
Can I have some powdered donuts?
Yes.
Also, I'll be even for you.
No, they're for you guys. Come on. Don't be silly.